President Trump weighed in on the Democratic race and who he'd like to run against. This is an interesting little clip.
Frankly, I'd rather run against Bloomberg than Bernie Sanders, because Sanders has real followers, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not. I happen to think it's terrible what he says, but he has followers. Bloomberg's just buying his way in.
Now, we know what the centrists are going to say in response to this. They're going to be like, oh, he's actually saying that because he would rather run against Bernie. He's doing jujitsu here. And he's actually scared of Mike Bloomberg. Is that possible? Yes. But even if Trump is doing that, he would have miscalculated. He would have miscalculated because Bernie is a much more formidable opponent. But what I will say is, in this instance, I think he's telling the truth. Why? Because it matches up with what he said behind closed doors. There was an article that came out in the Daily Beast, a couple months back. And the article basically said Trump secretly admits running against socialism won't be so easy. And the policy he brings up specifically is debt cancellation. He thinks it's really hard to run against debt cancellation. And Bernie, of course, talks about medical debt cancellation and student loan debt cancellation. And that's a policy position Trump is going to struggle to come up with a counter-argument to. And honestly, I think one of the reasons why Trump feels that is because Trump himself has had massive debt issues his whole life. His businesses went bankrupt 6 times. Now, he inherited a tremendous amount of money from his dad, but in terms of his businesses, he went bankrupt 6 times, and he's needed to be bailed out multiple times by financial institutions. One of the Russiagate angles that is not BS, because most of Russiagate is total BS. Oh my God, he's controlled by Putin and all that nonsense. He's a Manchurian candidate. That's ridiculous. But one of the angles that's not crazy is Russian oligarchs, basically giving him money and pumping up his failing businesses. So that's not a crazy conspiracy. Again, that's not tied to the Russian government. That's not tied to policy. That's tied to him being a terrible businessman and needing to be bailed out. So Trump can actually sympathize with people who are struggling with debt. And, when a candidate comes along and says, I'll wipe it out, he's like, oh, that's not going to be easy to beat. Now, the funny thing is, he's surrounded by people who have terrible political instincts. And this is something that conservative commentator Sagar from The Hill TV and the show Rising, he talks about this all the time, that if Republicans think they could run an election against Bernie Sanders and just keep bringing up socialism, Venezuela, they got another thing coming because they're going to lose if they run that election. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. Because you keep saying that, and Bernie keeps responding with, actually, I'm talking about Denmark and what I want the rest of the developed world has, and we're going to give everybody healthcare, we're going to give everybody education, we're going to give everybody childcare, we're going to raise your wages, we're going to work for you. A government's going to work for you, not the 1%. When he says that, and your response is, but Venezuela! People are like, kind of a weak response, dog, and they're going to side with Bernie. So Sagar's been, saying, hey, red alert on my team here. We're going to get destroyed if you go in that direction. But Trump is surrounded by people who only know that argument. He had, Steve Bannon in his administration, and Steve Bannon understood the appeal of populism. He's a vicious bigot, and he's got terrible, policies on immigration and a variety of other things. But on economics, he understands that populism works. Trump every now and then likes Tucker Carlson and listens to and talks to Tucker Carlson. Tucker might understand that populism works, but 99% of the people around Trump are going to be like, no, Bannon's wrong. No, Tucker Carlson's wrong. No, forget the populism. No, you got to run all in on, laissez-faire, unfettered free market capitalism is the best. And look at how the market is doing. The market, yes. Look at my wonderful stonks. The stonks have gone up. Yes. And that's not going to work. That's only a reflection of how corporations and the rich are doing. That's not a reflection of your average American. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. If Bernie's the nominee and he's up against Trump. What line of argument is Trump going to use? Because Trump has shown that he has the ability he has the instincts that are better than all of his advisors. So, like that ad that was ran during the Super Bowl, where he was bragging about freeing Alice Johnson. That's such a good ad because it's a left-wing ad, and everybody's going to look at it and go, that's a good point. Trump's base is not going to abandon him over that because they don't abandon him over anything. So they're going to go, oh, look at that. He freed this poor, innocent grandma-like woman. And his base is going to love it. The right-wingers are going to love it. The lefties have to look at it and go, I may disagree with Trump on everything, but freeing Alice Johnson seems like a good thing. So that's Trump with his own instincts. And I think that in a general, if he's intelligent, he would try to pivot to the left of Bernie on some issues. Or the other thing that he would do is take the few issues where Bernie's position is not popular and hammer away on those and only define him by those issues. And then that would be hard for Bernie to wiggle out of. Like if Trump just keeps bringing up, he wants to let the Boston Marathon bomber vote. He wants to let terrorists vote. Okay, America, you want to vote for that? By all means, go right ahead. Bernie 2020, if bin Laden was alive, I'd let him vote. Like that's the type of stuff he would say. Take the few issues where Bernie's not popular and just go, 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 go. He'd probably lean into whatever kind of woke remnants there are in Bernie's team. Lean into that stuff. Ask Bernie during a debate, how many genders are there, Bernie? And he's more clever than people give him credit for. That's the point I'm trying to make. He will try to find ways to go after him that aren't stupid. But I hope the people around him, the establishment people, win out in the debate because then Bernie would destroy him. But yeah, of course, the Democrats have put everybody in a weak position because they botched the Mueller report, they botched impeachment, so they've given Trump an approval rating that's the highest it's ever been, and it's right before the election. So the Democrats screwed up, seemingly on purpose, and now it's going to be a tougher election moving forward, no matter who's the nominee. But I do think that he would rather run against Bloomberg, because he's right, Bloomberg has no actual support. He's buying support. He's buying influencers, he's buying YouTubers. This is a story that just broke. I mean, this is what this guy's doing. There's another story that came out. Some people are working for Bloomberg and then also secretly supporting Bernie because they need the money. So they go to work for Bloomberg because they need the check. So, he's right. Bloomberg has no real supporters. There's no enthusiasm there. Well, again, this election is a test. How far can money alone take you? And right now it's bought him third place. It's bought him 10% to 13% in the polls. That's nothing to scoff at. But will it actually get you to win an election? That's tough because you actually got to get people out. You actually have to get people enthusiastic about voting for you. You actually have to get them to do something where they're in that booth and the curtain's closed and nobody could see. It's them in their own conscience, and they're likely to go for who they actually want to go for. And that's probably not Bloomberg. So we'll see. But I think Trump actually means it when he says he'd rather run against Bloomberg than Bernie. I mean, if I was him, I'd believe and say the same thing.